Welcome to Chinwag Tuesdays, your passport to a world of language and culture.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Chinwag Tuesdays. I'm Amanda and today we have Maree. She's an Aussie ESL teacher who spent the last 18 years or so in China teaching English. Thank you so much for joining me today, Maree.
No problem at all, Amanda. It's lovely to be here on Chinwag Tuesdays. So it's
Yes,
for a Chinwag.
exactly, yes.
Mhm.
So I always get my guests to do a bit of a self-introduction. I would just love to know so much more about how you got started in the ESL industry and where in Australia you're from.
Okay, well, probably the easiest thing is to say that I'm actually from North Queensland in Australia. At the moment, I'm coming from Townsville, which is where I grew up. But actually, I've spent more time not living in Townsville. And I've been living in Brisbane and Melbourne before I went off to have an adventure in 2005 in China, where I became an expat there. So, about me. So, how did I end up in the ESL industry? By mistake is the actual question. So,
You'd be surprised how many people say this, even like me too.
yeah, by mistake. So, well, kind of by mistake. So, I initially I had been working in the vocational education sector at not-for-profit RTOs for quite a while in Melbourne. And then corporate life happened upon me.
hmm
And I decided I needed a break. And just at that time that I was needing to have a break, a friend of mine who I worked with at Telstra in the mid 90s contacted me and said, "Hey, Maree, I'm in China. Come over." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. That sounds like a plan. All right, okay, that's great. I'll be there." And she said, "Yeah, I've got a job for you, manager of a language school." I went, "Okay, fantastic."
Wow.
I ended up packing up everything and selling things and went across to the capital city of a province in the middle of China called Shandong province, to Jinan. And I was managed a language school. But before I did that, I ended up having to teach, which I wasn't too fond of because I realized I don't know anything about English. Nothing at all. I've taught people how to do lots of things, you know what I mean? I used to teach people actually how to do all about assessments and stuff,
Mm.
but I've never actually taught kids before, and particularly not language. So I was a bit a baptism of fire. I was going over there to manage the teachers, not to teach, but ended up teaching. And anyway, after a while, I really enjoyed the lifestyle and things, but I realized that actually I don't mind this industry at all, but I feel very uncomfortable about being here with a whole lot of knowledge about education, but very little knowledge about actually English. So I went
Yeah,
back to Melbourne and got myself a job for a couple of months, and I did my CELTA in Melbourne.
great.
And yeah,
Yeah.
so that made me feel better and about actually having some actual academic sort of thing. So I had the experience, but I didn't have anything to underpin it or why. Yeah. And so that was great. And then I ended up, because of my experience working with vocational education, I went back and was working for TAPES from then on. So that was 2008. I spent a bit of 2008 here, and then I went back, but I was working for Victorian TAFE, actually on their
Mm.
programs, delivering English, their English programs. And then I kind of like never left. Well, I did. I tried to repatriate a few times, but never successfully over the years. And
Yeah.
so I was working in China in different places, quality assurance managing, as well as director of studies and also teaching. Yeah,
Yeah. That's incredible.
I
I
know.
love that. I love these stories, seriously. Like when people just kind of, let's say, fall into situations or opportunities, let's say.
Yeah. Well, I've got a Bachelor of Education, but I didn't do
Okay.
it until I was 28. I
Yeah,
actually
right.
I had a whole career, different careers before that in my early 20s, and I was nursing and I did a whole bunch of things. And then, yeah, 28, I decided I'd go and get my Bachelor of Education. I did that.
Yeah.
But that English teaching stuff was the thing that I didn't have.
Yeah. It's so interesting what you were saying about the CELTA, because I kind of, something similar happened to me. I started teaching online during the pandemic, like a lot of teachers who started teaching during that time.
Mm.
And have you heard of Cambly? The
No, I haven't heard of Camberley really. Yeah.
Yeah, so they market themselves towards potential teachers as a conversational English platform.
Mhm.
So you don't really need experience, you're just talking to people to help them improve their English, but they market themselves to students as proper teachers and tutors on the platform.
Mhm.
Anyway, so I applied for Cambly, got accepted, started teaching on there. And then, yeah, after a while, I was like, wow, I really don't know much about English.
Mm.
Just because I'm a native speaker, it doesn't give me this pass to be able to teach the
Mhm.
language, right? Which is a very common misconception. And I learnt that the hard way, which is why I then decided to do my diploma of TEFL.
Mhm.
And the company I did it with, it's kind of like their equivalent of CELTA,
Mhm.
because here in India, to do the CELTA, there's no CELTA in my city. So I would have to travel for it. And I just wasn't able to do that. So I was looking for alternatives. So yeah, I did my diploma, my level 5 diploma. And just to kind of give me that extra knowledge. And I definitely felt much more better about it once I did it.
Yeah. I just felt like a bit of a fraud, even though I probably did better than
Oh,
most of the language teachers that I was managing in the end, but I didn't feel good about it at all. Now I write for
yes.
language teachers,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
all
Yeah,
these
that was
years
going to be my
later.
next question.
Mm.
What do you do now? So International TESOL College, is that your startup?
Well, it's my a good friend of mine who I actually met in China as we met on a director of studies conference. She's from Brisbane and she was actually delivering a certificate for in TESOL. And so she had
Mhm.
this organization in Brisbane, she was teaching it, and she'd always wanted to do something with me. Yeah. So some sort of thing. And now I'm back in Australia caring for my mum as well as
Mhm.
working on the International TESOL College. So we don't actually deliver anything. What we do now is
Mm.
actually write accredited programs and professional
Yeah.
development programs for other people to actually license from us. So we
Okay.
actually give all the materials, do all the accredited stuff, which is very
Mm.
hard to do, and like build the curriculum
Yeah.
and then do all the assessment tasks and things like that. And people can actually purchase
Yeah.
the license from us and
Yeah,
an
right.
RPO, a training organization,
Mhm.
private TAFE, can actually put it onto their scope and deliver it to their students in any way that they want.
Ah,
So,
okay.
yeah, so
And
that's,
is it just English?
we have a certificate for in TESOL, which is accredited, a diploma in TESOL, a certificate for in teaching young learners, then a certificate 1 to 4 in English language. Okay, so that's the opposite. So we've got one for the teacher development and then one
Okay.
for student learning. Yeah.
Ah,
And that goes from
great.
general English up to academic or further study sort of preparation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just incredible. What a journey.
What a journey. Yeah. Yes. I love it. Actually, I love it. Love it.
Yeah, and so 18 years is a very long time to be outside of Australia. You've just said that you've recently moved back in the last couple of years. So let's talk about reverse culture shock.
Okay.
How has it affected you personally and also professionally?
I've always felt it. Let's go for personally, right? To
Mm.
start off with. So I think probably about 6 years ago, I was actually coming back to Australia more and more often and putting my toe back into Australia to actually try to balance that thing up because it's really difficult to come back. Nobody
Mm.
knows the people you're talking about or the stories you have. It's like you didn't exist. You just walked
Oh,
into the
yeah.
room and you were the last time that you were with them was the last time that you existed. Your stories or your anecdotes and things like that are things that your friends and family have. They don't understand. It's like, oh, you're just talking about
Mm.
China again. I'm not talking about China. I'm actually talking about my life. Yeah. My
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just happen to be from China or happen to be from Italy or from Canada or from
Yeah.
America.
Hmm.
It's like you talking about somebody from your workplace. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know them. And this happens to be my workplace, where I live.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really hard to take. It's quite hurtful actually in some way because
Mm.
you've got all these things that you want to talk about and this whole world is open up for you and then a bit of a shock to the system. And also because I was there for such a long period of time, so there's all these different iterations of my culture shock, right? So I can't tell you about my reverse culture shock without telling you about my experience of the culture shock that I had when I was there, right? So
Yeah.
because they're melded together. So
They do.
it's
They
so
do. It
melded
happens.
together because it's going to sound so ridiculous. But the first time that I actually saw, now this is going to sound really stupid, nappy sand, the whitener, the soap.
In the pink bottle?
Well, it was white. It was actually called nappy sand.
Oh, okay.
And so just a white soaker to boost your whites.
Yeah.
I'd never seen it. My white t-shirts, my white clothes were just all grey from the water. And I was just, oh my God, it's so now they may have had it in the Chinese supermarket, but I had no idea because I couldn't read it or whatever. But they
Yeah.
something. And the first time I saw hand, those things. But what it did is actually make me feel extremely grateful for what I actually had. It changed my expectations. So instead of just like being in Australia and be able to get anything that I wanted there, to actually find something and be grateful that I could find it, that I had it. So
Yeah.
that little treat, that packet of Tim Tams that would turn up occasionally on a foreign
Mm-hmm.
section of a supermarket, and they'd be gone the
Yeah.
next day because everybody's found out about it.
Yeah.
It's hard, and then, but coming back to Australia, I think I was mentioning on your LinkedIn things, walk into a supermarket and I could have everything, but I don't know what I want. Yeah. And I'm feeling guilty
Spoiled for
because,
choice.
like, I can have everything.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want. So it's really confusing. And I hope other people can actually understand what I'm talking about. It's quite strange. And
Yeah.
yeah, just your perception of everything has changed.
Yeah.
What you thought before was like Australia was, oh, they had all these great things. Yeah, Australia, they do this and this. And they come back and
Yeah.
horribly disappointed that they don't. It's just
Yeah.
some thought process that you have about your own country being wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you realize, oh my God, I have to learn Australia again. Yeah.
Yes.
Learning Australia. And one of my failed attempts to repatriate was in Melbourne, and I had a job interview. And I went to the train station, but I forgot that they actually have a timetable
Oh.
and that I had to be there at a certain time for the train to go because I was used to just turning up and a train would come in the next 5 minutes to go in that direction.
Yeah.
I had to
Okay.
get a taxi because I was going to be late because the train during the only leaves every hour.
Oh gosh.
Those small things that,
Yeah.
relearning my own country, relearning how to go to the post office. And then actually
Yeah.
also realizing that there's so many unspoken rules here that people expect just because you speak good Aussie and you look a certain way that you would understand, like go to the post office. Well, you need to do this, don't you know? No. Last time
Yeah.
here, we didn't do
This
that.
didn't exist.
It didn't exist. Or, well, you can't come here. It's like, why not? Well, because you can't. Where's the sign? You go,
Yeah.
all these unspoken rules. And it's like, don't you? No, I'm sorry. I don't.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that would be so stressful.
there it is. It's really super stressful. And particularly because you don't expect it in your own country. You expect it in your sponsored country where you live.
Yeah.
Your expectations are very different. Well,
Yeah.
but not in your home country. And people just think that you know how things work. And I had no idea. Over that period of time, things changed.
Yeah, I can just imagine because even like when I left Australia, I couldn't go back because of COVID. There was 3.5 years before I could go back. And even in those 3.5 years, so much had changed. So I cannot even imagine how much had changed over the period of 18 years.
Yes, so much. And another strange thing is that the Chinese yuan, the paper money, become so familiar to me as the Australian money.
Yeah.
So if I had any in my wallet, I would hand it over to people. People go, that's not our
Yeah.
money. And I go, because that's money. You know what I mean? I didn't see it as so familiar. Or
Yeah.
I'm sure many people do this. You go into a shop and I still reply in Chinese.
Yes,
You'll
I slip into
reply
Hindi so often.
as a thank you or a hello or something. I still
Yeah.
revert to those things that you would say all the time when you meet people. And yeah, it's quite funny because and then I end up, apologizing in Chinese. Keep going around, sorry, bye. Uh, Or
Yeah.
even to my family, you know, they've got used to me, yelling out things. You know, Shima means what? What's happening? Huh? Shima? And so they
Yeah.
picked up on some of the things that I say and know what they mean. But yeah, you just completely forget because it's just so natural. So natural.
Yeah.
Mm.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I do the same. Like just for simple things like yes in Hindi is hanji.
Yeah.
So it's so often I'll like when I was in Australia, if a family or friend would say, "Hey Amanda" or "Amanda," I'd say hanji. I mean yes.
Yes.
Or one second is the same word, second.
Yes.
So one in Hindi is ek. So
Mm.
instead of 1 second, 1 minute, I would say ek second, ek minute, 1 minute.
If I count, I always count in Chinese. I
Yeah,
still do it, and I
right.
still do the hand signals when I count. And it's just become a part of me, and I actually like it. I think some of those things we should take on. I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
does
there's a
make it
lot.
harder though, having
Um,
that kind of in between.
yeah, I just makes life interesting. Textured, darling. That's what it does.
Yes, I love that.
Textured.
Yeah, textured. Yeah.
Textured.
You know what I saw last week? There's this little grocery store, or little, let's say, mini supermarket
Yeah.
close by that we go to because they have an international food section.
Mm-hmm.
And at the back, they have this vegan health food cafe that we like to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And they have Capilano honey there. That's the name of it, isn't it? Capilano. Yeah.
Capilano bear.
Yes, they have that honey.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen like Australian chocolate there a couple of times. They also have the Australian, it's Moccona coffee, but it's imported from Australia, so all the different flavors.
Mm-hmm.
And you get really excited when you see those sorts of things. But what you were saying before about just being really grateful when you do find things. I was talking about this with a friend when I was back in Australia, how when I was back, I was just my eating changed a little bit. Like it was more health food, like rice cakes and hummus and brown rice quinoa, all that kind of stuff. And I made a joke to a friend how I'm going to go back to India with expensive taste.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, that's so funny because that's just so normal to us here, all of those things you've just said. And I'm like, those things are really hard to find here where I live. I have to buy them. I can't get them from my local supermarket. So it's just stuff I have to buy online. But then, yeah, I came back and I was eating the same and I felt really grateful for that. But it's things that if people haven't lived outside of the country, they have no idea. And it's so hard for them to understand. And I don't think they'll ever truly understand.
No. And, you know, when you buy something and you think, oh, this is going to be like a flour. You want to buy a flour to make a cake. And you think, have I got the right flour? Because it's a Chinese brand. Yeah. It's, oh my God. Yeah. And oh no, it's bread flour. Well, that cake doesn't taste too good. Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I once made this. Oh my gosh. I still remember. I don't know how long I'd been living here. It was the early days. And I was really missing Australian sweet potato because sweet potato here is yellow. It's not the orange one in Australia.
Mm.
But before I could find yellow sweet potato, I was looking on a website and they had what looked like yellow yam.
Mm-hmm.
And my understanding was that yam is like sweet potato. It's just like another name for it. So I bought it and I baked it as if I was making sweet potato chips. Maree, this was not something you could just eat like that. You actually had to peel the skin and cook it inside something. We ended up with rashes all over our mouth. And like we told my mother-in-law and she was kind of like laughing at us saying like, why would you do that? I was like, I didn't know any better. And it was just one of those early days of, I guess, culture, like a cultural difference where I'm like, this is too hard.
I think COVID could be a whole episode for you from my experience there, but just reflected on COVID because then I was in Shanghai and we were locked in for I did 78 days in one hit in my apartment, and the government would give us boxes of vegetables and food every week.
Yeah.
And there was all these vegetables and all on the social medias, everybody's, what do you do with this? So we've never seen some of these things before. How do you cook it? It's like everybody's just going, garlic and soy sauce. Stir fry.
Yeah. Just stir fry everything.
Stir fry everything. Garlic, soy sauce. Garlic, soy sauce.
Can't go wrong with garlic and
Can't
soy
go
sauce.
wrong with
though.
garlic and soy sauce. But there was just all these weird vegetables, honestly. It was like, what's this? But people were very grateful. I was very lucky that I could actually share and give a lot of those things to other people who had more than one person. It was just me and my cat in my
Yeah.
and other apartments had 5, 6 people in it, so they were only getting the same
Mm.
box as me. A whole different story, darling. Another thing you can do a go-get episode.
Yeah.
That's some great stories with that. So that's personally, but professionally, this is another interesting one.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, it's actually very sad because, especially within education and within vocational education, which I was in, is that your experience and your work that I did in China was never actually appreciated here by the people within my profession.
Right.
It
Okay.
was seen as that it wasn't good enough. It wasn't, and the reality is that in many cases I would pass the audits as better than they would in Australia, right? And we have bigger responsibility of teaching our local partners. The local teachers have to do things as well, and so people would just poo-poo. It's like, oh no, but what did you do before? And it's like, well, not what I've done. Like all that experience, that wealth of knowledge was almost dismissed.
Okay.
Really terrible because
Yeah.
it was just that, oh, it's China. You know what you did in China. Everybody knows that China is a bit dodgy. Nobody, and it's like, no, that is not the case. Not the case.
Yeah, it's just this.
That
Yeah.
and I would always be up against even people visiting for certain periods of time, trying like the FIFO sort of play out. Some of the teachers that come across would say, "Oh, it's impossible for them to reach the standards that we do in Australia." Says who?
And I bet
I don't
I
even
bet they've
try.
never left the
I don't
country
even
too.
try to do it. And I said, "Well, I think you should because they're more than capable. They're not stupid."
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was really offended for my colleagues because
Yeah.
of that attitude. And
Yeah.
look, there are some people some places that I've actually been to and done quality assurance audits on, which I'm very unhappy with because of the standards that they had. But you get that
Yeah.
anywhere. But it doesn't mean that you can par the experiences of people
Yeah.
across the board. I think that's changed a little bit of late, and I don't know why.
Like changed in a good way, or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's getting better?
Yeah, maybe because I'm in Australia too,
Maybe. Yeah.
in China. Yeah. It's quite interesting to be dismissed. So that was the downside of professionally, but I think it's just
Yeah.
changing a little bit, and maybe with my age and experience as well as that other people are starting to recognize that my skills don't just lie in a classroom teaching situation.
Yeah.
I have a lot more value apart from that, and it's very unusual for somebody to actually stay in China for as long as I did within this sector that I worked in. And the amount of knowledge and information that I've built up over time is
Yeah,
actually very,
absolutely.
very valuable.
Yeah, it would have been. Because, yeah, I can't even imagine 18 years in India, to be honest.
Well, I'll see you when you get your 18 years, darling, and you will just, oh,
Well, I'm
I
coming
really,
up to
I really
6
wanted
years.
to
It's
get,
almost there.
I really wanted to get to the 20.
I
Well,
bet.
the joke was that I'd say with the new people who'd come in, and if you're still here, if you get past 1 year, you'll stay 2. If you stay 2, you'll stay 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I was getting ready to move, and even in the first kind of period of moving, I had friends say to me, like, is this going to be long term? Is this permanent? You know, what are your 5-year plans kind of thing? And I was like, look, it is long term. I see myself being in India for at least 5 years. And then 5 years came around last year. I was like, holy shit, I made it. It's been 5 years. So now when people ask me, I'm like, well, I guess I'll see how I go in the next 5 years. But I don't know if this is a question you got a lot when you did move, because you did have those attempts of repatriating. But
Very
did you
failed, darling.
find that every
Couple of months.
time,
I would not.
did you find that every time you went back to Australia, you always got the questions like, are you ever going to move back? Are you moving back soon? Did you get those kind of
Yeah,
questions? Because
oh,
I get them every single time, and I'm
oh,
just like
yeah.
sick of it.
I think when they got to about year 10, they stopped.
So I've got 4 years to go,
That's right.
basically.
Yeah, they stopped. It's just, oh, well, she's there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She's there. She's comfortable. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then people are like, holidays are much easier in China when she comes with us. Cheap holiday, yay!
Yeah. Yeah. So like when I was home last year, I went back for 2 months, and I got sick by the end of it, I was just done explaining to people, because I mean, it's not their fault either, though. They hadn't seen me in a year, and there were some friends I hadn't seen for 2 years.
Mhm.
I just had to really explain, and I had to remember they don't know any better. I have to take my time and be patient and not get like frustrated because I'm getting the same bloody questions every day.
Well, yeah, and one thing that I get is because China is a bit on the nose with a lot of people,
Yeah.
and I don't know whether India has such a bad rap as what China does, the evil Communist Party, and things like that. It's quite interesting being on the other in the other part
Mm,
of the world where it is and actually living there. The propaganda that they think that China actually uses, which they do,
yeah.
is not as bad as the propaganda that the Western media put out against China in many, many
Yeah.
ways. Sometimes they might etch around the truth, but never let a
Yeah.
good story go by without with the truth. And yeah, so I found myself defending China a lot because people couldn't understand why I was there. Why are you there? Yeah.
Yeah. I get that.
And a
Yeah.
lot of older people thought it was still very much Cultural Revolution time. And I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, no, I kind of live in probably one of the biggest metropolis modernist cities in the world. Yes, there are
Yeah.
areas that are not, but it's not dusty, tracks and
Yes.
donkeys, whatever, or,
Yeah.
or people in mouse suits are shuffling around.
Yeah.
And also, I will say this for people also knowing that Shanghai, where I actually spent the last 10 years, is not China. I call it China Light, if anything. But
Yeah.
the first state were actually in other places other than Shanghai.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
sat down written in Shanghai, got myself sorted at one particular school that I was working at, and I wasn't leaving for any reason. I was Shanghai princess. I already did the hard knock, yeah. Again, I already had the small village of 1 million by bus and had to cross a river on a rusted house, whatever. I've already done that. I don't want
Yeah.
to do it anymore. I want to go back. But in saying that, I never lived in any of the expat areas at all. I would
Mm.
them regularly, but I always lived in
Yeah.
communities, which I found much better. Some of my friends lived in expats, more expat communities, and
Mm.
happy there, felt more comfortable. But I like
Yeah.
being able to visit, but to actually live more simply as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. In my city here, they don't really have expat areas. There's expats here, and I'm friends with a lot of them. Most of us, actually, I think all of us are married to Indians. And it's really nice because tomorrow is Easter, and a lot of them are Catholics,
Mhm.
or if not, I think there's one girl who's Protestant, but she couldn't find a Protestant church, so she's going to the Catholic church tomorrow. So I'll be able to see them in the morning for mass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just really nice to have that around, but all of us just live very independently in
Mm.
society, sort of thing,
Yeah.
compared to, say, Delhi or Mumbai, where they do have really big expat areas where people tend to go, usually ones with kids or who are there because of their husband's
Yeah.
work. They've been relocated. And I understand people wanting to do that, but I think it's a bit different if you're with someone who's a local. You're not going to really going into expat areas.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And maybe I'm Catholic as well, but and you could go to church there. There was no problem to go to church in China. A lot of the Filipinos that were there all used to toddle off to the Catholic
Yeah.
church. But one thing that I really enjoyed every year is to actually go and participate in the Anzac Day dawn service. Yeah.
In
Right.
China?
In China, yeah, we'd have one at yeah,
Wow.
the consular general in Shanghai would have one at
Yeah, right.
and so we'd have the New Zealand there, the New Zealanders there as well, and the Turkish,
Yeah.
and it was just beautiful. So we'd all turn up early in the morning and
Yeah.
have the dawn service and away from Australia and to be a part of something like that's very
Yeah.
special to us.
Mm.
And actually standing beside other people who, the Turkish people as well. I mean, we're all there. It wasn't just the Asia. It's very special. Now, I'd say that they would have them in probably in Delhi, yeah, or
I was
Mumbai or
just thinking
whatever.
that actually. I'm pretty sure.
And then
I
they have the
can't
big,
remember last
the
year.
consulate things, yeah.
It's in Delhi. Yeah, the
Yeah.
main consulate is there in Delhi. So they probably will have that some kind of Anzac Day service.
And they
I'll
go
have to
the
have a look.
Australian bars or something like that to put on Anzac cookies and lemons and sausage rolls and go and have a feast.
Yeah, exactly.
Afterwards.
Yeah, Delhi's just a bit too far. Sometimes I wish we lived closer because it would be really nice because there is a really big expat community, not necessarily just Australians, but in general. And Internations, the organization, they always have expat events there.
Yeah.
Oh, but to get to Delhi, it's like a 3-hour train ride or jump in the car. It's 6 hours to get through traffic. And
Yeah, I
It's
don't,
just so populated. It's like 33 million people in Delhi alone. I just
yeah,
can't deal with it.
no. No, I understand where it was just easier. I live there. I normally take a DD, the Uber or China
Oh, yeah.
DDs, and there in the morning because it was before the buses would open, and then I just bus it home or bus it to the school afterwards. Whatever was happening. So cafe with my friends if it was on a weekend. That was always fun.
Oh,
Yeah, doing those
yeah, that's nice.
social things were really good to celebrate.
Yeah,
But that's what comes with living in a big, like the capital, big city,
true.
isn't it?
You have those opportunities to do
We
that.
never had that sort of opportunity when I was living in the other areas. There might be,
Yeah.
foreign bar that might put on things. It's just the football's a really big thing, grand final or the state of origin or something like that.
Yeah, it's nice when you come across those things, though. It definitely adds to your experience. You get a little bit excited. I do get excited when Australia plays in the cricket, especially against India. So I make an effort to watch the cricket when that's on.
Yeah, I'd never do that for anybody. You must love your husband.
Well, he actually doesn't really. No, I wouldn't say that he doesn't watch cricket because we've been watching it a lot lately because the Indian Premier League's on. It's the T20. It's actually quite interesting. T20 because it's quick, but other than that, I was never a cricket fan. He never really got into cricket, but it's been really interesting watching the T20 because there's so many Australian players in the different like the
Really?
IPL teams. Yep. So in the off season of the Australian cricket season, a lot of them get contracted to the Indian teams because it's opposite seasons.
Of course. So
Yeah.
I just loved one of the other things, which is like reverse culture shock, but something that was really different after and coming back for a couple of months. I wasn't really watching television or things like that. I was too busy doing things, eating yummy cafe food. Uh, and but the way Australian society has changed itself over that period of time is amazing. And
Yeah.
you just reminded me of sitting, and the cricket has been on over the summer. And I just loved, actually, the only part that I really loved was watching the crowd and actually seeing all the immigrant Indian and Pakistani
Yeah.
families there. And how it
Yeah.
like almost boosted Australian cricket again to have those fans actually.
Definitely.
And some of them are for Australia, some of them for India, Pakistan. It's just beautiful to actually see these little kids get excited
Yeah.
and to be, and I never saw that before. I never actually
True.
saw that. And also,
Yeah.
the other thing that was really starkly different is the ads. And I'm so happy that it's happened, really, that the ads are no longer blonde hair or fair skin, skin
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
It's walk of life, African.
Yeah.
I don't even know whether we can say Aboriginal or it's supposed to be Indigenous. I don't know the word. We just, everything it's there
Yeah.
and it's normal and natural because that's what Australia is. And that's the
Exactly.
first time, and it was just so stark to actually see. It was the first time that was now being actually shown on
Yeah.
our
Yeah,
television.
and you're right. It is what Australia's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
and it's great.
absolutely.
You get to see the Asian family doing something instead of the Australian family doing it, yeah, or the Indian
Yeah.
family or the mixed family. I just, there was a big difference, and so you could see how Australia had actually changed and developed its own socially, because I don't think
Yeah.
2005 that I think it might have even been scandalous just to have a gay couple on a television show or something.
Yeah.
And it would have been newsworthy. Now, hey, they do ads about it. It's just,
Yeah, you don't even think twice about it,
no,
really,
you
do you?
don't.
Just, whatever.
But it was noticeable to me. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so that's us.
Steps in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, on LinkedIn, when we were talking about reverse culture shock and things, you said that you have a theory on reverse culture shock. So, what is it and how can it help others?
Well, it's probably more neuroscience than and anecdotal. So I think for you as well, because you're in India, when you're actually transported into a different culture where there's just so many people and so much activity and it's so different from your own, so much texture, as I call it, that you become hyper aware of everything. You are always on guard because you're always worried about that bicycle coming or that person or the car or the
Yeah.
and so you become hyper vigilant about everything, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. And what happens, I think, in our brains is that we end up getting, I think it's our serotonin, no, one of them, can't remember the names of dopamine, one of them, it has to, the fight or flight one, you know what I mean? It's
Oh, I think that's
always
dopamine,
on.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Serotonin's your happy hormone.
Yeah.
Is that
So
serotonin? Oh, I don't know now.
there you go. So
One of them.
one of them. And because this is not something that
Endorphins?
endorphins, maybe somebody will know what we're talking about. I could look
Yeah, right in the comments.
right in the comments, please. There's so much for my theory, or my hypothesis, I should say, not my theory. It's not like going on holidays where you're there for a short period of time and you might, but things are happening around you, right? And you're not quite aware, and you haven't got that sort of, you're still in that select honeymoon sort of period where you're not even
Yeah.
thinking about it. But when you actually live there and you're experiencing it, and you become so hyper vigilant that this actually
Yeah.
switches on, and it doesn't switch off after a while, right?
Yeah, that makes that makes
Doesn't
sense.
switch
Absolutely.
off. So when you return to your own country, this is still going, and you're still waiting for that hit. You know what I mean? You're still alert. You're waiting for that hit. And because you're not getting it, your brain chemistry gets a bit wonky. And because your body's saying, come on, where is it? You become almost addicted to this feeling. And that's what causes like the sadness and the depression. Probably the things that you think about, you know, the homesickness and things
Yeah.
are just more level. They're not as textured. I'm
Yeah.
junkie for adrenaline because I know
You've gotten used to the chaos.
exactly the chaos that's around you. And it didn't matter even up until the day that I left. I knew that every time I left the safety of my apartment, which still could have its own chaos, but once I left the safety of my apartment, I had no idea what my eyes or my body was going to be experiencing, because
Yeah.
every time there was something, you would have some thought of happiness or maybe disgust. I never got to the spitting. Yeah, gave me this visceral action, right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Right.
I was staring at someone that did it the other day when I was walking. I think I was walking somewhere and I just gave a look and I'm like, oh, I need to not because obviously it's so normal here, but I can't get used to it.
I can never get used to it. But that, and then the bikes and the cars and the delivery drivers and you're walking to work or you're on your bike and it's like happening all around you. And or you'll just go, oh, that's really cute. You know what I mean? Lovely happens after all this.
Yeah.
And I think that really changes our brain chemistry. I really do. I think that it is.
Yeah.
I don't want to call them traumas, okay? Because they're not. Because
Yeah.
well, some things could be traumatic, but
Yeah.
your brain is so on. So it's like a PTSD-esque type of situation that your brain chemistry gets really screwed up. So when you actually return for any decent period of time, not talking holidays, holidays, you're still up, you're still honeymooning, you're still not there.
Yeah.
When you're not getting those hits of whatever chemical that's been released is happening, I think that's when you actually start to have the neurological effects of it,
Yeah.
and the unhappiness or the sadness or the distress actually comes in because you're actually looking for it.
Yeah.
And probably a whole lot of other things that I don't know because I'm not a neuroscientist.
Yeah.
But I think that there's something there. That I think people who would go maybe to live in another very similar culture to themselves, may not experience it as much.
Yeah.
We went to live in even LA, we might complain about the smog and the bad traffic, and how long it takes you to get to things, but in general you're not having that, you're not being fired all the time. That hypervigilance is not there.
True. You're not on edge all the time
Not on
thinking
edge,
about it,
because you
right?
are. But on edge also creates another calmness in you because it's sort of like switches off things. I can ride a bike with a bus inches away from me and not want to, right?
Yeah, you just get so used to things, don't you?
So I can walk across a road and have cars coming both directions and feel comfortable that I'm going to get to the other side without somebody killing me. knowing full
Yes.
well that if I did that here, people would be like, "Oh my God, what's happening? There's a girl on the road." I'm just crossing. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
crossing.
I don't know if it's the same in China, but here in India, like you have to cross whenever you get a chance and you put your hand out. So you kind of put your hand out to tell the car to slow down or stop.
Yeah.
I'm walking.
Yeah, sometimes you have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do, and sometimes they want to just go around you, right? You just get used to it.
I
And
know, you really
you
do.
do. And those sort of behaviors that we actually bring back with us. It's, oh, do you have hot water? I need some water. Can I have it hot? Or can I get it warm? What?
Yes.
Warm water?
Y-
Yeah, before. Well,
One thing that I struggled with when I first went back, my very first time back, I remember I was staying at my brother's house. My dad picked me up from the airport and I walked into my brother's house and I had like just the little water bottle they give you on the plane, the plastic bottle. And I've walked out to go and fill it up and I've had to stop. And I've gone, where do I fill up my water bottle? Because here in India, we have the water filters. And I'm like, and I said to my dad, where do I fill up my water? He's like, just use the tap. I was like,
oh yeah.
oh my God, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yes, I know, but how many times when you first arrived did you go and put your toothbrush and clean your teeth from the tap?
Well, I do that here anyway because it's not too bad in
No,
my
I did
city.
it
But
when I
yes,
was there. Yeah.
yeah. But yes, just little things like turning all the power points off
Mm-hmm.
when you're finished using them doesn't matter. In Australia, you would just leave the toaster on, you leave the kettle on, all that kind of stuff. But I'm in the habit now of turning those things off.
Yeah.
Those little things you don't even think about. And then you kind of have to. I felt like I had to stop doing those things because I was a guest in my family's house and I didn't want to be changing the way that they do things. So if they leave their PowerPoints on their kettle and their toaster, I don't want to be the one turning it off. So I had to stop doing that. And then I had to come back and readjust and do all those things again.
Yeah,
Little things, but
they're
it just
very
messes
small
up
things,
here.
but they're actually they become a little distressing in some way.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even down to you come home and you bought your hairdryer, say, oh shit, it doesn't fit in the plug.
Yes. Oh,
Having
yes.
to
That happens to me
bring,
in both countries.
yes,
Yes.
bring over things. Yes, so there's lots of small things. Sorry, I have a cat. It's just crawled between my legs and my skirt. What are you doing?
That's okay.
Yeah. So culture is really, it's a really interesting thing. But there's so many things that I learned about myself, and
Yeah.
talking about the Eat, Pray, Love that I come up with, the Teach, Travel.
Yes. I was actually going to ask about that. Yes. Let's talk about that.
Teach, Travel, and Transform, which I think is great. It's not good for everybody. Not everybody wants to go and have an adventure and transform their life and things like that. But I think that it's such a great thing for people to actually do if you want to.
Yeah.
Go to another country, actually experience, live there, work it, travel, and actually absorb yourself into another culture. And this is, the culture, don't see it as different, wrong, different, all those things that you tell yourself.
Yeah.
But I think it goes beyond that. I think
Yeah.
you actually need to try to understand the culture. So what makes these things happen? Why is there chaos? Why we in Australia, Western cultures, hung up on conformity, because people still get to work through all the chaos, the cars and the bikes and the people and whatever,
Yeah.
and not too much road rage on the streets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so through what I describe as, if you see a big school of fish in a fish tank, and they're all going together, but they're not hitting each other. They're just like all
Yeah.
around each other. It's like that, watching that. So within that chaos becomes a harmony, right? And this was
Controlled chaos.
yeah, control chaos. And or in China we'd say that there's a harmony that actually sits there as well. And
I like that.
it's okay. It's okay to have chaos. It's learning to let go of our need to control the situation, our need to do something.
Yeah.
We're so hardwired to want to control.
We are. Oh,
So
yes. I struggle with that
hardwired.
so much, trying to give up control.
Yeah, and fighting the control, and you really just causes problems for yourself if you fight. Yeah, just let it happen. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a really hard lesson, and it's to think, I don't like what's happening at the moment, but I have to trust somebody else that I don't speak their language. I don't really know who they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen at the end to actually do something important for me, whether it be
Yeah.
some banking or set up something, visa. Oh my
Oh,
God, visa.
oh,
Just the thought of a visa.
the anxiety that's rising
Anxiety
in my
that comes
chest
from
thinking
a
about
visa going
this
to
because
Israel.
this is exactly what I go through. Yeah.
And I've seen so many people just struggle so badly, even to the extent somebody was asking me to do something, and we're at a cafe or asked for something, and they said, "I'll just have a look
Mm.
now." And I'm using my Chinese to try to find what she's talking about and whatever. She's like, "Give me the iPad, I'll just look." And I said, "Can you speak Chinese? Can you type in Chinese? Do you know how to do this?" "Oh, but I just I have to figure out what they would call it. I need to find a brand that I can find, yeah, because I don't know what it is called in Chinese." Yeah. And index cards means a whole bunch of things, right? But to actually see them physically dragging my iPad and
Yeah.
control, it's okay. Just sleep,
Chill out.
just sit down, relax, enjoy a cup of tea. I will do this. You're making me more upset.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
trying to help
stressing me out.
and I'd see it all the time. So you'd have some lovely, lovely Chinese person who would try to help a foreigner to do something at a bank or whatever, and they'd be like, "But why can't they do this?" To help
Mm-hmm.
you. They don't need to do this, and you're making it terrible for them.
Yeah.
Terrible for them.
Yeah.
And it brings me to what I have lovingly called, and everybody can actually take on this concept. I called it being China'd, okay? To China yourself. I made China into a woman, right? China myself, right? And that is when you actually know that you will have no control, say,
Yeah.
or that you don't understand the cultural nuances of something that you do.
Yeah.
And you actually walk into something and you think with all the confidence in the world, "I've got this, I know exactly what I'm doing." And all of a sudden you get a whole lot of shit packaged you and you're like, "Huh? What happened?" What happened there? I thought everything was fine, and now everybody's angry with me, or I can't
Yeah.
figure it out, or things aren't happening. And so I call that being China, because you actually don't know some of the subtleties of culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I've been China. I'm trying to spread this around the world so you can say I've been Hindied or I've been Indian or whatever.
Yeah.
Or find something. And the other thing is, like, I China'd myself. Okay, where is that?
Mm.
No, that there is some landmine there that I need to
Yeah.
clear off, right? But I still go there anyway. So a perfect example. Went to a bank.
Yeah.
Okay, bank. Won't be out for 2 hours, right? The bank. I need to change my passport
Mm.
number. Yeah, got a new passport, need to change my passport number. Yes, got there. They're all working, doing other things. People are coming in while they just be calm. You've got 2 hours, you know that it's going to take this long. Smile and nod and just go, yes. And then they're like, "Oh, but your name is too long." "Well, it's my name on my passport." "Yeah, I know, but it's too long. It's not in our computer. You have to change your name." "Yeah, well, I can't. You want the name that's on my computer, on my passport." And them trying to think that you need to change these things. You already have my bank account. You already have my name. I'm just changing. This is my old passport. This is my new one. I just want to change the number. Now you're telling me
Yeah.
the name's too long?
How did you get your bank set up then?
"Can I have all the money in this bank account? Thank you. Bye-bye."
And then off you go.
And off
Yeah.
you go. You know, it's because those sort of things, and don't get angry. But this time I'm just like, no. The person was trying to help me and try to figure out this thing. And other people from other departments were coming in and asking him questions and dragging things. And I was getting so frustrated at the fact that this 2 hours is taking a very long time, more than 2 hours.
Yeah.
And you're avoiding this problem.
Yeah,
Now,
true.
right? So yeah, but I knew. I got angry. Of course I got angry. So I China'd myself in that situation. because I knew that it was going to be difficult. I knew there was going to be some problem. I knew something was going to happen.
Yeah.
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 So I Chined myself. But then on the other hand, go to the post office to go send off Christmas cards, go to one day, go send them all off, international post. Oh, I forgot 5. I better go and write 5 more Christmas cards, go to the same post office, and them saying, oh, sorry, we don't do international post here.
This has happened to me. Something like this happened to me here. Yeah.
You did it yesterday. Oh, no, we don't do it. Take them. No, we don't take international post. And because of face, somebody next to them said, yeah, we do international post. And she, oh, no, we don't do international post, because everybody heard her saying we don't do international post, right? And so I just took them, come back the next day. I want to do international post. Okay. Now, how frustrating is that? And that can make you so cranky, but you know that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And it shouldn't happen. Or the shoppers
Yeah.
who avoid you. You just want to buy something and they're just like, oh, there's a foreigner and I don't want to talk to them, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you become the best friend because you go into a shop and then every other person in the neighborhood comes into that shop to see what I'm buying. And they're standing right over the top of you.
Oh, God. No personal space.
No personal space. Or I love the going to the supermarket and the old days, the aunties and uncles going through my shopping cart and showing people, oh, look what she's buying.
Haven't had that experience here.
Multiple times.
My goodness.
So one thing that I found, actually, I'll share this with you. I don't even know what the time is, darling. And I got to tell the person, so do you know Richard Feidler? He's an Australian journalist. He does interviews now. He does a radio, an ABC, I think it's RM program called Conversation with Richard Feidler, where he interviews people. But Richard Feidler was actually a member of a comedy act called the Doug Anthony All Stars that I used to love when I was a teenager in the 80s. But he ended up doing this. And I love listening to Richard Feidler interview people. So what I found was if there was something that I didn't understand that I'd see, or something horrific, or I lived in this area once which was for new immigrants or migrant workers coming into Shanghai.
Okay.
And so the area was not like other parts. It was quite lots of factories, lots of terrible housing, old-fashioned housing and stuff. And but what I did, because I loved his interviewing style, I would actually interview myself using his voice. Because he could drag things out of people. And so I just get Richard Feidler to ask me questions to actually find out the answer, how I felt about something, whatever. And I found it really a great way to have a conversation with myself. I might be crazy as well. But it really helped because
it works, whatever works.
And it was a great way to try to understand what I was seeing. Some wasn't good. Particularly in this area, got the beggars and stuff, and who was the real beggar and who was just playing around and things. There had to be a way for me to process it, and so that's why I did it. But Richard came to talk about his books that he was writing. And I got to meet him. It's like I was stalking him around Shanghai quite a number of times. I actually got to ask him questions, and I told him that I used this to do it. Yeah, and told him that.
And what was his reaction?
Whatever works. Whatever works. No, he was really lovely about it. We were actually at a foreign press sort of thing about his interview style. And I was saying it's good that using his style to help me understand things. It really, a really good way to do it. It's like he was interviewing me for his podcast or his radio show.
Yeah.
And getting to meet Richard Feidler from the Doug Anthony All Stars. If you're a person of a certain age, Australian, you'll know who I'm talking about. You have no idea because you're.
I'll have to look it up after. I probably have heard of the radio program. The name does sound familiar, actually. The conversations
very, very good conversations. It's just having conversations with people, but how they can actually draw information out of people, that they wanted to say or they didn't even know themselves. It's just amazing the way that they can do that.
Yeah. All right. And so before we finish up, one last question. What advice would you give to international students or new migrants who are trying to adjust to Australian life while learning English at the same time?
Okay, don't enclave in with people from your own culture and your own language group. Find flatmates, roommates that are from another culture or Australian. Go to a homestay if you can, or find a person to share with. Yeah, join a sports club. If you like playing basketball, there are so many places you can just play social basketball. Your university will have some clubs that you can join. Don't stay with people from your own culture. You will never, ever get out of that. And you need to if you want to get into Australian life.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's, I said, that you have the expat enclaves that people are just
Yeah.
fitting in with other
Yep.
expats, going to expat bars all the time. You don't experience the culture. You don't understand. You can't not assimilate. I kind of don't like that word, but you can't sort of adjust.
Integrate?
Integrate. Thank you. Better word. But assimilate's not good. Integrate. And you can't share your uniqueness and your story
Yeah.
if you're only
Yeah.
talking to people from your own culture, because
And people want to hear it.
they
People want to learn.
hear
They
it
want to
and
know.
be curious about Australia, yeah, and their culture.
Yeah.
You may not want to drink beer. I don't drink beer,
Mm.
but go to a Friday afternoon drinky after work. Do that. See what it's
Yeah.
like. Yeah, what they do after they finish work, because this is a bit of an go to the sporting.
Yeah, knockoff drinks.
Knockoff drinks. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to a sporting game with other people. Even go by yourself. Yeah. You may have your best friends that you want to knock around with, or somebody that you feel close to, but step outside and you will find a world.
Yes.
It's just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like eating Western food, but I also used to love going to the local eateries and eating the local food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do that. Don't just stay at home and cook your own food, or go to try something different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am never, ever going to try pigeon tongue ever again in my life, but I tried it. Right? I found out that camel hump is not too bad. Right? I wouldn't know those things. Yeah. I'm not a big seafood person at all. Right?
Yeah.
I'll eat some shrimp and stuff like that and some fish. But I don't like crabs. I don't like, I'm peeling them.
Yeah.
So just have a try. You'll find out what you like, what you don't like. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you're hooked into this all the time, but at least you go back home and say, I tried camel hump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell the time that
exactly
the AFL game or the NRL game, or the time that you joined the netball team for uni. Yeah. Or I went somewhere on a bit of an adventure. That's what makes you as a person, not just as a student.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. That's brilliant advice, Maree. Thank you so much for sharing. I 100% agree. It's so important to, in the beginning, if you do want to stay with people from your own country, just because that's what you're familiar with. However, then comes a point where you do need to try and step outside of that if you do want to make the most of your time in Australia and learn to understand Australian culture or integrate into society. Because otherwise, then you're just removing yourself from your country and trying to do the same stuff in Australia. And
that does not work.
It doesn't work. And honestly, your everyday Australian, they're not going to appreciate you and your culture if they can't see that you're making an effort to integrate into their own. And that's a really big problem at the moment that, like, I've seen online, just in comments, disgusting comments. But a lot of the comments say things about how, a lot of them are assumptions anyway. They just assume that basically what they've seen is that's how people are. But yeah, if you're not trying new things, then it's going to be harder for you to integrate.
Well, you can re-educate people by your own personality, by your own stories, by your own thing. You know, go and tell them, You think that India is this, it's just lots of poor people and beggars, and but it's not.
Yeah.
And this is how I live in my life. This is what we have.
Yeah.
People, actually, they're interested to know. Educate them. Tell
Most
them that
people
there is
are
something
exactly
so
right.
wrong. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And
I mean, of course, there's going to be those people that refuse to listen and refuse to be educated,
oh,
but you're going to find those people in every society.
yeah,
But majority of Australians are interested and they do want to learn and they do want to understand.
one of the interesting things as an expat, right, that I found is that, and I noticed this, is that we all seem to socialize in China with middle class, educated Chinese people that speak English, right?
Mm,
And that's only a snapshot of the country.
yeah.
Snapshot. Because there's the people on the rise, there's the people that are above. And I ended up having people who were in the wealthy, and I also had people who were very common people, working, very, very
Mm,
working class, I'd say, on the other end of the spectrum. And my IE, my cleaning lady, even every day for the past, I don't know, 10, 15, no, 12, 13 years, she has sent
mm.
me a good morning, Maree,
Oh,
made,
how
some Buddhist
sweet.
god, thank you and
Yeah.
your family. She sends me messages. She spoke mainly the local dialect in Shanghai. And I
Mm,
spoke 5 words of it. But, you know, Meituan and I could communicate, and nobody could understand how well we understood each other and what we could figure out. And it was
yeah.
so beautiful to actually get to know somebody, and to see that other end and have a really deep affection for them, really for them. And for her to drive me crazy like a mother. And but she loved me, yeah. She still loves me. Knowing of sisters, getting to know her sisters and a husband and a son and stuff. We've got to step outside of where our comfort level lies, and you
Yeah.
have no idea what you'll find there.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
No idea what you'll find there.
Yeah. All right. So, Maree,
Yeah.
how can people contact you if they want to know more? What's the best way? Is it LinkedIn? Do you have an email, website?
LinkedIn.
Where can people go?
You can get me on Maree at international. Is it the internet?
I'll put in the
Yeah,
description.
Maree at international TESOLcollege.com, no AU, just Maree.
Yeah,
Or you can go onto LinkedIn and find me there, Maree Donaldson.
perfect.
Yeah, I'd
That's
love to
great.
hear from people. Love to. I love meeting
Thank you
people.
so much, Maree. It's been so great talking and having you on here today. Thank you
you.
for taking time on your Easter long weekend to have a chinwag.
See, that's the other thing. Easter means nothing to me. Christmas, Easter, I worked through most of it. I never had days off living in a
Yeah,
Christian country. They were always delayed or a thought. And
yeah,
that's okay. You don't have to celebrate on the actual day. So,
true.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
figure it out for
nothing.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm thinking, oh, shit, Easter for you.
Oh, I've only taken my normal days off a Sunday, Monday. I just closed off Sunday, Mondays for anyone wanting to book in for podcasts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was almost an afterthought for me as well. But yeah, I'm not taking any extra time off or anything like yesterday or today, so it's fine.
I will now go and edit a video myself. I'm almost finished. I won't
All
have
right,
any time
Maree.
off as well. But we got to do the COVID episode because that
We do. We'll do an
I can just
episode
put Corey's
too.
episode. There's so many of them. The COVID
Yeah.
one was quite fun. Yeah. I'll just do the
All right. Well,
quickly do
thank
it.
you
So
so much.
think underground, World War II, distance, think high security prison.
Oh, yes,
You
of
know what I mean? And
course. It
everything
would have
in
been,
between.
yes.
Yeah.
What we saw in the media. Yeah, we can talk about the stuff we saw in the media and then if it was reality or not for
Oh,
you there.
yes, yes. I can show you some videos of some funny things and people in white suits. Anyway,
Yeah.
we all lived through it and I didn't leave. Okay. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank
And
you,
everybody,
Maree.
wish you all the best. And yeah, go out there. Be curious. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Be curious. And don't get
Thanks.
China or Australian
Yes.
or Indian.
Whatever verb you want to
Whatever.
throw in there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
spotted it.
Yeah.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.